On this episode of AVWeek, Shure has a brand new version of the design software. Panduit purchases Atlona, and looking at legislation that impacts passwords and network protection. All that and more. Next on AVWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AVWeek, episode 387, recorded Friday, January 25th, 2019. AV Risk.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Atlas IED, innovative audio solutions for every business environment, and by Bodio, a leading manufacturer of professional PTZ cameras, Pro AV solutions, and UCC integration systems.
This is AVWeek, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week. Not quite all the way around the world, but we're getting close. First and foremost, my buddy, pal, and fellow Illinoisan, Mr. Jeremy Caldera, due north of me in Peoria from IAS. Welcome, sir.
Hello.
So if we're going to go around the world by, screw it. Next up is Joe Wade. Joe is from California Baptist University, and he's also coming to us from NAMM, which is happening this week. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me on. So yeah, you get background music with me, so I'll be the local entertainment coming to NAMM here. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also from Dublin, Ireland, and the provider of my world-famous Guinness socks, Mr. Justin Dawson. Justin is from the University College in Dublin. Welcome, sir.
Thanks for having me on, Tim. You don't get background music with me unless you want it. We can play some traditional Irish music to my studio here if you want.
No, that's quite all right. One guest with background music is plenty enough. Real quickly before we get fully into the stories, there's a reason that I'm having Justin and Joe on specifically, not that they're not fine human beings and great people, but there's also a little bit of a AVNation selfish reasons. They are both up for the AVNation AV Professional of the Year for 2018 in our AVNation Reader's Choice Awards. We're going to give each of them kind of a chance to tell you why you should vote for them if you haven't done so already. And good Lord, a lot of you have, both of them actually. So first and foremost, story off the wire here. Actually, is going to come to us sort of kind of from NAMM. Shure has unveiled their designer version 3.1 software. And what it is Shure has been developing this software that helps integrators and design engineers roll out wireless systems and do so honestly in a responsible way to make sure they're not stepping over themselves, not stepping over anybody else, anybody that's been in a college situation, a house of worship situation where you have several different channels. You know how difficult it can be. Joe, I actually want to start with you because you just kind of walked out of the Shure booth there at NAMM. What was your first take from the software itself?
Yeah, so I just have my hands on it, and I gotta say I was very impressed on a first take. It was a huge improvement. They call it a 3.1. So this is not a new development from them, but it's definitely a redesigned development. The limitations right now are that it's pretty much only for their conference room microphones. However, what I saw was just the ability to both be online and offline in being able to set up your room so that you can take everything and send it off to your techs, knowing how it's going to be routed, getting the line drawings done. But certain limitations, it doesn't work with their Axient or their QLX systems yet, so that's still to come, and there obviously will be some upgrades that will have to happen for that. But even just the ability to bring on the live mode and be able to not have to manually route your Dante through it, or through Dante, you can do it through that. So I know a lot of people go to Dante and they're thinking, okay, that's a little bit suspect. Where are these routes going? Because it's just a big matrix. So being able to use the software to make those routes before going into the field so that when everything connects, it knows to find it. I thought that was a huge upgrade. And I think that's one where, at least in my space, in my vertical in higher ed, if I'm doing an entire floor, that's going to be the most helpful, so I can send the text out, set everything up, and know it's going to be pushed to it. So overall, pretty impressed.
Jeremy, talk about that for a second, because Joe was talking about how you can push this to your text. Does software like this help you, or does it maybe hamstring you when you're trying to send out a system, make sure that it's viable, and you go through the engineering process and then the deployment process?
I think it can be helpful. Like I said, I haven't seen or played with it yet. The one thing is, like with Dante controller, obviously you got to be fine, you got to, make all your routes, you got to do all that you got to do. And if you're not necessarily using the Shure DSP products or their USB matrix, or if you're using another manufacturer that just has a Dante input, I don't know how that's going to work with the routing and things like that. Of course, if it helped with all of that, it would make things a lot more simplistic and a lot easier. But as far as setting up even these table microphone arrays or the MXA 910, just anything we can do to make that a little easier for the technicians is great in my book. We just did a large deployment of about 50 different rooms of these things, and anything that we could have done to speed up the process obviously would have helped drastically. So.
Yeah, and I can add on along with that. That was what they basically said the purpose of it was that you have so many different Shure apps, but it's basically pulling them all in together into one place so that you can do the DSP and you can do your routing all at once. Again, it's not all there, so depending on what type of deployment you're going to do, if you can't bring in certain mics, QLX series, even just to have some Dante mics, you can't really do it all yet. But I definitely think it's a good step in that direction, especially from a deployment side. So that was a good step.
Justin, kind of bring this back around to the deployment side again. I used to be a technology manager years and years ago, and that was one of the things that we really, really kind of leaned on was software and were tools like this from manufacturers. Because let's be honest, not everybody has somebody come in and do a full integration, or maybe you're responsible for doing the upgrades, but you actually put a bid out for new construction, but upgrades and refreshes is on you as a technology manager. Does software like this help you when you're doing stuff like that?
It does and it doesn't, Tim. The biggest problem is that, at least with Dante, you have it across the board. I notice a lot with universities, especially in universities in Ireland, you could have different contractors bidding for different tenders. And it means that you might not have the same technology across all the schools. And that's where the biggest problem comes in. And I've discussed this even at the LTSMG before as well. Whether it be projectors, whether it be microphones, you might have one school that will be using Sennheiser, another school using Shure. So that creates a problem where you don't have a universal spectrum across the whole university. So it can, on an end user perspective, it can be great for the technicians to have this software that it's a bit more easier than drilling down to a big matrix. But then you come down the route of the more software you have, the more security implications you have to go back to your IT team and go, right, we need to get this installed. And that can be a big problem.
Drill down on that for a second, but you said the more software you have, the more security concerns you have. Is that because they need to vet it out and do penetration testing on it?
Absolutely, yeah. I know it's from going back to my old job in a top 4 financial firm. Every time you brought in some new software like this, it had to pass your risk and compliance team, and what ports have to be open, what type are we going to keep it on a separate VLAN? My university might be a little more relaxed on the security implications, but I just find for every time there's a new upgrade to 3.1 software or whatever, at least with Dante, you can drill it back and okay, fine, it's there. And if you have Sennheiser mics, if you have Shure mics, it can cross. With end software, like if you have schools that might have Shure and might have Sennheiser, then that sometimes creates a problem.
All right, very good. Next story here actually comes from us. We did an interview with Panduit and Atlona this week because Panduit purchased Atlona this week. From Dennis Reynell, president and CEO of Panduit, quote unquote, Atlona has been at the forefront in developing cutting-edge AV technology that embraces the full potential of the convergence of AV and network infrastructure. Panduit, if you're not familiar, is a large infrastructure manufacturer. Not to get too Illinois on this, but actually just due north of Jeremy, outside of the city of Chicago. So, Jeremy, I want to start with you on this. Atlona has been doing this for 15 years. They've developed a number of pretty innovative products. They've got a good, solid AV over IP product in OmniStream. It's a unique one in the fact that it doesn't use JPEG 2000 or a couple of the others. What will this mean? What will this purchase by Panduit mean for you guys, for the integrators in the AV industry?
All these mergers and acquisitions going on, it's kind of messing with everything, right? We've seen it for the past year and a half, 2 years, right? And it's messing with shipping delays and purchasing and just all kinds of stuff, right? So, from just an operational standpoint, that kind of worries me a little bit. However, I will say that, years ago, I was never a fan of Atlona. It's more of a recent thing with a lot of their new developed stuff, and I've become a big fan of Atlona. I think a lot of their products, I've been personally doing some R&D and vetting here in our shop, and it's been working really well. Panduit it's a huge company. I use a lot of their cabling, especially for HDBaseT stuff. All of my, category cabling, even getting more into their AV cabling side, which is kind of where they've been expanding a lot as well. So I think it's a really good marriage between the two. I think it's just going to mean nothing but good things are going to be to come here from Panduit. I was recently up at Panduit and was giving a speech on modern technology trends and designing for user experience and things like that to a bunch of consultants and a bunch of people at Panduit. And this was maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and they had mentioned to me that they were saying, hey, we really want to start getting into more AV stuff and distribution and switching and all sort of stuff. And they're like, we don't know if we're going to do it, if we're just going to buy somebody. And of course I knew, I'm like, well, they'll just buy somebody, and
Did they tell you who though?
No, they didn't. But I actually did make a comment to the people I was with, and I was like, oh, you guys will probably buy Atlona, because I thought about it.
No, you did not.
I mean, think about it though. I mean, of all of the manufacturers that are out there, okay, whether it's the AMXs, Crestrons, Extrons, you name it, right? Who's the most likely candidate that is still a really great product, but yet isn't, a Crestron or Extron, right?
Absolutely, I agree with that. Yeah.
The only one in my mind that made any sense, because they're not going to, maybe they'd buy Kramer. Kramer and Atlona came to mind, as the only two that would be of value to them. So it makes sense. I think it's going to do really well. I'm going to be really intrigued as to where the development goes for that line and what they're going to do in the future, because I was really impressed when I took a tour of Panduit's facility when I was up there, how they maintain and do things. I never toured Atlona's facility, but just knowing that they have them as the parent company and the backing of that, I think there's really good things to come.
All right. Justin, Jeremy mentioned the fact that more and more of these M&As, mergers and acquisitions, are taking place. Panduit being a big infrastructure. Actually, they announced this on Monday as Panduit headed into one of their biggest trade shows of the year, that being Vixie. Atlona obviously has one of their biggest trade shows of the year in a week from now, being Integrated Systems Europe. What is this going to mean? Panduit getting more involved and honestly more integrated into the AV industry.
To be honest, I hadn't heard of Panduit as much as I've had with Atlona. Like I love the Atlona products. I use a couple of across the school. It's just simple plug and play. We want some of our breakout rooms, some of our huddle spaces where you can just plug in a HDMI cable and bing, your screen comes on automatically. That's what I wanted, without the tech phone calls every 2 or 3 minutes going, the screen's not working, or I don't know what button to press. It's like, well, try them. You can't break them. That comes. I think everyone will agree with that they've done that type of tech support. You can't break it. Just press some buttons. It might turn on the TV. Then call me when you can't get it on. Is it a good move? I think it's a great move. I think Atlona is going to, with this move, it's going to be bigger than Extron. I think Extron, you can see across Ireland, a good few universities use Extron and I believe Extron aim towards the universities more. But then, forgive me for saying, I don't think Extron have a good marketing campaign at this present moment. They're not, you don't see them at ISE, you don't see them at these big trade shows, but you have Crestron at these big trade shows, big selling point. What, as a technician, annoys me and frustrates me is, if I want to learn Crestron programming, I need to be buying this equipment all the time. At least with Extron, I can get onto their training programs. At Atlona, I can go online, I can do their programs. So I'm going to watch this with intrigue of which way they're going to progress. But I think in the next year, my predictions will be that they will be more of a marketing front than Extron at this very moment in time.
Is that because they have more financial backing, or because of the way that Panduit has done it?
I think Panduit will go down the marketing route as well. And so long as you keep the training open for the technicians, and it's what I call closed shop. I think Crestron's very closed shop if you want to do training. That's my personal thought.
Interesting. I will say that again, we were a small. I was a tech manager for a small community college in Southwest Illinois. We did purchase Crestron products, but we also purchased Extron products and Kramer products. We were invited to at least one training every few years, and the same with Extron. At the time, and this is going back a few years, Atlona was just getting started, so we didn't have quite the connection with them. So, Joe, same kind of question. What is Panduit getting into this space going to mean for everybody?
Okay, so when I see these acquisitions, my first thing I think of is end game. Okay, I ask myself, what is your end game with this? It's not just about adding an extra, company to your portfolio, but what are you going to get out of this? And so when I look at Panduit, because I had to do a double take to make sure that this was really the Panduit that I knew that we were actually talking about.
Same Panduit.
And so I thought, okay, so let's draw the parallels. Panduit is a company that basically builds freeways for information, right? They're roads and freeways. Atlona is the cars that drive on it, right? So you now have the infrastructure with the vehicle. And I thought that was a good compliment. And I don't know that there's anything that any one gives to the other than being a compliment to each. And almost, I wouldn't want to say a one-stop shop because I'm not a fan of that phrase, but I do see that you've now built a portfolio through the fact that your information from point A to point B, can actually go device to cable to device. You've actually created a closed system through that. I don't know if that's their end game, but I thought that was an interesting parallel. So I think it does nothing but help both companies. It is. I see what Justin says. It's worth watching to see how that impacts my vertical. But I think that in standard corporate integrations, where you're going to have an infrastructure design, and then you just need to add some devices to the end of it. If you've got a company that it's another part of their brand, that's an easy sell. So I definitely think that it's interesting.
All right, very good. As we wrap up your last story here, it comes to us from our old friend, Mr. Josh Strago, who, if you hadn't heard, is going for his law degree, which makes this story all the more interesting. Quote unquote, there's a new law affecting AV manufacturers in California. The law is a California law. We're actually going to go back to Joe because Joe's in Southern California. In brief, 2018, the California legislature passed SB 327. It's a law that says that manufacturers of connected devices must provide appropriate security measures for any connected device they make. Basically, what this means is that if your device connects either directly or indirectly to a network, you can no longer ship the device with pre-programmed passwords like admin, password 1234, password 1234. So simple, easy to crack passwords. Joe, what is the impact to you guys as technology managers being in the state that this is passed in?
Yeah, welcome to California, the land of legislation. So, if we have one thing that we're proud of, it's sunshine and legislation. Those are the two things we rock at. Here's the thing about it. I think this is awesome because we just know that security is a huge factor. And you would never see an IT department ever deploy any of their equipment with something that's standard and without added levels of security. It obviously adds huge complications to large installs because it is really, really easy to throw a bunch of equipment in rooms, send my techs out, and then I know I can just go and I can put in this, the basic password and get in there. But I definitely think that it has multiple layers that are very good. And beyond just being able to protect the gear, but also you realize that part of this legislation is about privacy and user information and what you can do with your client's information. That is the key to this legislation. It just happens to be that it impacts it for us, the devices that are plugged in. So it's a larger legislation that will have that advantage. And also, while I'm on it, just so you know, I was reading the article, and I saw it says that many people in the AV industry would like to have the MAC address as the default password, just so that they can find it. And that is an awful idea. Whoever's idea that was crazy, because when you plug something in a network, what's the one thing that's discoverable about it? The MAC address. And so now you're just giving away the password to the device. So, you might want to rethink that one. But I definitely think this is a positive step to us as AV people, demonstrating that we take security seriously, which I think is a weakness.
All right. And from the other side of this, I want to bring in Justin. Because Justin lives in Ireland, and not for nothing, but that's part of the EU with the wonderful passage of legislation called GDPR.
Don't even get me started, Tim, on GDPR. It's the biggest, hottest topic that's hit Europe with regards to IT and AV, where no one actually knows the rules. It's so. Okay, we had Google only recently getting fined. We've had Facebook getting fined, all working out of the Dublin offices. I just want to go back to something that Joe said there, like, okay, MAC addresses and whatever. Do you know what this is going to cause? Even if it's in California, it's going to cause the AV technician or the AV manager having to keep the manual of every device that they buy. Why? Because guess what? If something goes wrong with that and you need to reboot it, are you going to remember where the password is, or is it going to be on the sticky on the bottom of this?
Okay, but you should, Justin. I just on and not to get silly about this, but you as a good practice, and we're going to pull Jeremy in here as an integrator. But a good practice for any integrator, you should keep the logins and passwords of anything that you touch and put on the network, just like you should keep DSP programs and control system programs. Don't you agree with that?
I agree, but if you're trading off that, if you're going in and installing that, hopefully you're handing over the information to your technology managers in whatever building or whatever firm. Do you think they're going to remember where to keep them? And then tenders change from time to time, Tim. That's where information like that goes missing.
That is true. And just to keep my own rule, GDPR stands for General Data Protection Regulation, is the GDPR. So.
But going down the GDPR route, like, okay, what had happened there in California, Tim, is pretty much we have a rule that governs the whole legislation of something like this small little rule in California saying that you can't do it. Because even going back to one of your stories on AVNation about the Ring doorbell, well, I'm thinking now, well, hold on a minute. If Ring is gathering all this information, that's data protection. That's a data breach right there with GDPR across Europe. Are Ring going to stop selling doorbells across Europe? Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah,
well, and, if I want to add in here too, just to recognize for our market, where's Extron's headquarters? They're literally 2 blocks from me that way. And so what you're going to see is they're going to now manufacture everything for everyone. So this is not a California law. They are not, if they're going to do it for us, guess what? Everybody in the world now will do it, because if they have to make it 2 blocks from where I'm sitting and that way. So it's something everyone needs to plan. But even what you said, it is good practice no matter what. No matter how they ship the password, even if they randomly do the password and they put it on the little sheet and give it to you, it would be good practice in your environment to change it anyway, right? Because you don't, somewhere there is a file at the manufacturer's facility that will have that password written down as how they deployed it. And when that security breach happens at that location, you don't want that information out. So it would be best practice to change it regardless. But I do think randomization is positive for even just those tech departments that maybe don't do the right security protocols that they should, right? And so I think that would be an important step.
Yeah. Jeremy, I would bring on you on this. And Joe brought up one of my last points here is NAM is in Anaheim this year. It usually is in Anaheim. He is real close to Extron, obviously makes products for the AV industry. QSC is very close to him in Southern California, makes products for the AV industry. Utiligy is more of a software, but they're also in Southern California. Atlona, which we already talked about, is in California. There are several manufacturers that are in and around California that this is going to impact. How is this California state law going to impact the rest of us in this industry?
Well, it's exactly like he said. They're going to have to abide by it for California, which means everybody's going to have to abide by it. Take it or leave it, right? So it's just going to be a matter of just change. And it sucks. People hate change just in general, right? But I think that after a couple of months or a year of just having to just do it, it's going to be second nature to everybody. It's going to take a little bit longer time. You're going to have to do better tracking. A good thing is going to come out of this. You're going to be forced to keep better data for your projects, right? Which is what everybody's been stressing anyways, and every integrator should be doing it. And I'll admit there's a couple jobs I've done where I'm hanging a projector or something. I don't maybe keep as much accurate information as I do on the larger jobs, right? But hey, maybe I have to now, right? So that's the one good thing that's going to come out of this. And just in the meantime, it's going to be a little painful.
Real quickly, do you think this will make or force other manufacturers who aren't in California follow along, just so they can, as a marketing and honestly as a market positioning, where they're also going to follow along because, hey, you know what, Extron and Atlona and QSC and all these folks are doing it. We might as well too.
I have mixed feelings about that. I really think that most manufacturers don't care what the other ones are doing necessarily in regards to that. They're going to want to keep it easy and cheap, and if it's going to keep the cost down, they'll do it, right? What's interesting is that we'll see if we start seeing this type of law snowball to other states and organizations, well then yes, everybody's going to get on board, right? And California is notorious for everybody just kind of laughing at it and saying, ha ha ha, look at those stupid rules, and they'll never go anywhere else, right? But in this case, this is actually one of those rules that could possibly be adopted by other states. So
absolutely. All right, guys, that is going to do it for us for this week. Mr. Caldera, thank you, sir. How do people find you and or IAS Technology?
IAStechnology.net, or on the Twitter thing there, it's at Jeremy_Caldera.
All right, very good. Mr. Justin Dawson, thank you, sir.
Thank you. If people want to find me, it's Justin or Dawson on my website.com, justinordawson.com, or you can tweet me at Justin or Dawson.
All right, and before I bring Joe in here, 30 seconds or a minute, why should people vote for you for the AVNation AV Professional of the Year?
Okay, well, I've been in 3 awards already for European CTS, AV Professional, Young AV Professional. I think 4th time lucky. I'm going with 4th time lucky. I might actually cross the line this time and get over the bar with an awards. So hopefully, I don't want to sound like the Father Ted episode, the Irish Father Ted episode of you should give me the 2 parachutes in case one fails, but you should. That's my quote.
All right, very good. It's the mercy. It's the mercy vote. Give the guy a break. He's been up for 3 already.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Mr. Joe Way, how do people find you your book, your doctorate, because I forgot to mention the fact that Joe's a doctor. He has a PhD. And then why should people vote for you?
All right. Yeah, you can find me so on the Twitter, the Facebook, the Instagram, the website at Josiah Way. So just my legal name, Josiah Way. And of course, yes, I do have a book and higher ed podcast, all that. You can find that all. It's at Producing Worship is the book and the Higher Ed AV, but that's all on my website, Josiah Way. But I am on the Twitter and the LinkedIn. Those are the key ways to be able to communicate with me there. And then let's see, reason people should vote for me. Well, one, Justin was like the second guest on my podcast. So like, I know how to pick good guests, right? So I don't know if that's the reason you should vote for him or vote for me, but obviously I don't. But no, here's the thing. And I always say this is our industry is really about the people, right? And so it's one thing to always say, I'm just honored to be nominated, but honestly, AV people are just awesome in being able to be part of this community and to see how they have adapted and adopted me in with the book and just being here with you has been fantastic. And, hopefully I have been able to give back to this industry, even, like I said, a fraction of what I've gotten from it. And if you think so, you know what? I'm the one right underneath Justin on the poll. You can press that one, and then right from there, the done comes up, and you push that one. So there we go.
But if you're in a hurry, you just vote for me because I'm on.
Oh,
Hurry.
here we go. Now we're firing shots.
All right. Well, thank you both so much. And again, I want to thank everybody, honestly. We started this 3 years ago, and the first year it was like, okay, this is kind of cool. Holy crap, you guys have blown me away this year. From the nominations, we had 8 great AV professionals that were nominated, and we put it down to these 2. You have until midnight Central Time, because that's where I live, Central Time, on Thursday, January 31st, to get your votes in. And it's not just between Justin and Joe. Obviously, there are several other categories: DSP products, AVOIP, control, all that. So check all that out and more at AVNation.tv. AVNation.tv. Also, while you're at the website, check out our supporters section. These are the folks that support us financially, help us bring you AV Week every single week, Resi Week, which is my buddy Matt Scott's show, and ISE 2019, February 5th through the 8th. We'll be heading to Amsterdam. Actually, we'll get to see Justin. We'll get to see Mr. Caldera. We'll eventually get Joe over there. Probably not by Amsterdam. We'll maybe have to break him into Barcelona. That won't suck at all. So
I'm there. It's more south. I'll take that.
It is more south. It is more south. As we've been talking with folks as we preview these, and one of the
because he's not attending, Tim, that I'm just going to pick up the trophy. You're
just going to pick it up regardless. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, we'll be there again, February 5th through the 8th. We'll be doing daily wrap-ups at 5:30 local time, so 11:30 Eastern every single day, Tuesday through Friday. So check all that out and more at AVNation.tv, AVNation.tv. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That is all the time we have for AV Week.